Can somebody turn the mics on? Hello? It's on. All right, sorry. Okay, we need to start, everyone. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, friends, colleagues, and some of you new to APrIGF, some of you I've seen before. This workshop is under the auspices of an organization called IFLA, which is the World International Federation of Library Associations. Maybe you're wondering what the word libraries has to do with internet governance. Well, we think it is relevant. We think it's important. There's a big connection. What we do in libraries around the world is provide information, and information is carried on carriers, and it is hopefully carried on neutral, impartial carriers. And this is what we try to maintain, the principles of impartiality, neutrality, and freedom of expression. But we also have other objectives like promoting literacy and promoting, supporting education services. And all of these things also rely on the internet. So we are here this afternoon to focus on not libraries actually, but information services in the community and information services brought to the community on the internet and services for training people, users of the services, to understand how the internet works. So I'm not going to talk to you anymore about IFLA, about libraries, but I'm going to introduce immediately our panel of speakers. Our first speaker is Yati Kamil from Indonesia. Our second speaker, and she's an experienced member of Internet Governance Fraternity in Indonesia, and also the Indonesian Library Association. Then our second speaker is going to come in remotely from Australia. That is Gunilla Astbrink, and you can see her name on the podium, but she's all around you on the airwaves. And our third speaker is a Thai colleague, Kamorat Intaratat, who's going to talk about empowering marginalized communities throughout Thailand in the countryside. And she has a very interesting presentation for you. Then our fourth speaker is Piawan Suwatanatum from Thailand, but from UNESCO, and she's going to talk about an education project using mobile phones. So really here we're talking about information coming out of boxes, not libraries, but buildings, which may be libraries, which may be schools, which may be community centers, telecenters, or maybe even mobile phones, those gadgets in your pocket. So that's enough from me. We're talking about access to information in the community through ICTs, the big principle, and how that helps the digital economy, which is a phrase pronounced this morning in the opening session, which we should remember. Information, education help develop the economy, the digital economy. They help people raise up their level of standard of living and their enjoyment of life. So our first speaker is Yati, and it's over to you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, all the audience here. Like as the moderator said, that we are not only discussing about library as a place where people doing a for lending and reading books, but we have already moved beyond books. So you will see that you must be wondering why the library is including in the internet governance. But I'm trying to present what we have been doing in Indonesia. It's a project led by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Okay, the title which we present is Transforming to Better Life Through Access in Public Library. And it's a best practice from Perpuseru Indonesia. Vincent has already mentioned the mandates of the IFLA, so you can read here we are not talking only about books, while we are talking about literacy, we are talking about access, etc. So you will see this is, I quote, the IFLA mandates. And when we are talking Indonesia, if you have been to Indonesia, you will see that how big the country and diverse is, you know. And you can see that we have like Sumatra Island up to the Irian Papua, we call it now Papua. And then I'll just give a snapshot, the profiling of internet penetration in Indonesia, which I quote from the 2016 survey done by the Indonesia Association of Internet Service Provider. You will see here that we have the total population of Indonesia is 256.2 million, and when you see the number here is the total internet users is 132.7 million. So it's quite a big internet users, but then what we have to justify is how they use the internet. When we are talking about geographical distribution, you will see that the dense population using the internet is in Java Island, because Java Island is the most populous and the most popular. And so you will see that like in Borneo, Kalimantan, Papua, there are still less population compared to Java Island. So Java Island only covers 65% of internet user. And when we see user behavior, we ask the reason why they access the internet. You will see that 25.3% is to update information. And the least one is for leisure, for business, which is 8.5%. And for entertainment is 8.8%. When we are talking about age distribution, you will see that the highest percentage is those aged between 35 to 45, because they are in the mid-career life, and so probably you will see here. And the youngest from 10 to 24 years old, they are at the last percentage. When we are asking what kind of content they frequently visit, because it's very interesting. Some of the young people, mostly they are using the online games. And here you will see that social media is the biggest one. And you will see that recently we have problems in Indonesia about social media, and so we block the Telegram. Facebookers is the most popular for the Indonesian, and some people find Facebook is not only just for entertainment or for gossiping, etc., but you use it as a tool of advocacy. When we are talking about access of information, the government of Indonesia has already started in 2001 when we call it Internet Cafe. It's the government initiative, and they put the facility in the university, but not in the library. So at the end, I think the project failed because less support received from the government, and we have less initiative from non-government community. One of the initiative of the National Library is they just designed, we call it Indonesian One Search, a sort of a search engine. And you will see here, we are doing the repository for the whole Indonesian university, libraries, everywhere. Here. As I mentioned, we have a project, it's a program, it's called Perpuseru. Perpuseru in Bahasa Indonesia, perpustakaan, which is library, and seru is fun. Why they call it Perpuseru? Because mostly, when you're talking about libraries in Indonesia, mostly people consider it as a boring place, and they don't like it because it's dusty, etc. But I think people already changed their perception. So the tagline for the Melinda Gates Foundation is Perpuseru. The program is initiated by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It's part of the global libraries in America, but in Indonesia, it's managed by the Coca-Cola Foundation Indonesia. So you will see here what they believe is that, I don't have to read, but you can see here that the idea of having the Perpuseru is to empowering the ICTs through the public library, because public library is a public space. It's quite a challenge because mostly of the Indonesians still live in the rural area where sometimes connectivity is still not that good. The success of the project is that we have received support from different parts of ministry. Like for instance, we have support from the collaboration with the National Library, and we also have the Bappenas, that's the one of the institution which is at the national level, which designed the blueprint of the Indonesia. And we also support by some private sector, NGOs and community group, as well as the Ministry of Information, Ministry of Education, and the Ministry of Home Affairs. You see, because if you are doing on your own, it's not only about budgeting, but you don't have impact for the community. You will see here the project starts from 2011. The initiate is that starting from the 34 public libraries in 16 provinces. So we have to make sure that it's not only in Java Island, but we didn't go to the Papua because of the budgeting. When you travel to Papua, it's very expensive, just like traveling to Australia. So we just allocate some places nearby Java Island. By 2014, you will see that it improved, expand to 80 village libraries in 90 districts in 12 provinces. And then 2015, another 18 districts libraries in 18 provinces. You can see that you will have more videos on the Perpuseru, how they do their works and the impact for the community. I'll just give you one sample. For instance, the women in the rural area, they have the handicraft, like for instance, batik printing, it's home industry. So when the library of this Perpuseru come to their area, they invite them, all these women, to learn about computer and to learn about internet. So they manage to do the marketing online, and their income is improved because of the way they sell their product is not mainly selling one by one, but through online. It's only one of small samples how we manage to change people's life.
Yati.
Almost finished, yeah? Okay. So you will see here that how the impact, because when you have project but you don't measure the impact, then it's useless. And so you will see here that the impact, because the target is for women, for young people, and for small enterprise, and you will see here how they manage to improve the quality of people's life, especially in the rural area. I think I managed. I think what we have, you will see this is the achievement of the Perpusuru up to date. And the last one, you will see why we were quite successful with this project. You will see that the government improving the infrastructure, not only for the Perpusuru, but nationwide. And then we receive partnership and support from many stakeholders. And the competence, expertise, and experience of the team, specifically on strategic plan, community engagement, and advocacy is the strength of the Perpusuru, because it's part of the global libraries project, so they just replicate the strategy.
Thank you.
The last one is monitoring. Okay, yeah, thank you.
Very important conclusions, and you'll all have the chance to ask questions about them at the end of the session. Some interesting political questions there. Okay, can we bring in Gunilla, please?
Hello, this is Gunilla Spring here. I hope you can hear me. And I think we have...
Hello, Gunilla. Are you there?
Okay, hold on. Thank you very much to Winston and Ifla for inviting me on this panel. And interestingly enough, I actually have many different I'll just be covering some aspects. Next slide, please. Oh, we don't have any slides up at the moment. In the interest of time, I'll keep going. So this presentation is about increasing ICT accessibility to information for people with disability. And people with disability, well, over 1 billion people have disabilities worldwide, and 80% live in developing countries. They are marginalized in many countries. There are many cultural and economic barriers to active participation. For example, limited educational opportunities and limited employment. But ICT accessibility to information and the internet for people with disabilities can break down barriers and open opportunities. A key policy driver is the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability. This has been signed and ratified by over 100 countries, and obligations include implementing measures to design, develop, produce, and distribute accessible ICT at an early stage. That's very important. So these become accessible at minimum cost for people with disability. This is Article 9 on accessibility in the Convention. But we need to ensure that policies like this are followed by action. I'm going to talk about one particular area that's moving ahead, and that is about accessible books. Now, currently, only 1 to 7% of the world's books are in accessible format. Now, that's appalling for people with a print disability, mainly people with vision impairment. Okay, now we've got my slides up here. So if the operator could move forward to the slide called Accessible Books, please. That would be about 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th slide. Thank you.
Yep. Back. Yep.
So the Marrakesh Treaty under the World Intellectual Property Organization is very important in this context. For countries that have ratified the treaty, it allows creation of books in accessible formats for people with visual impairment by blindness organizations or other authorized entities, without requesting copyright permission of the owner of a published work. So this is actually exception to domestic copyright law. The other aspect of it is permission by authorized entities to import and or export books in accessible formats between countries without needing permission from a copyright owner. And this is important, for example, if there are countries with similar languages, maybe in this region it could be Indonesia or Malaysia. And it could also help move accessible formatted books from developed countries into developing countries. So complementary to that is DAISY, which is an international standard for delivery of accessible online books for blind people. And a blind person called Vashka Batashiji works with the Bangladesh government to deliver accessible school books for using DAISY as a platform. He has actually won a number of international prizes for his work. Next slide, please. So web accessibility and usability underpins a lot of accessible online service delivery. Many governments have adopted W3C Web Content Accessibility Guidelines called WCAG 2.0, but designing and testing with users all the way along is really important. Next slide, please. I'm going to move to the Pacific region. This is an extremely large area, a lot of ocean with small landmass, relatively small populations. Majority are small island developing states, and there are about 22 countries and territories. Transport and infrastructure costs are high. Next slide, please. So I've got a map here of those 22 countries or territories. If you find number 21 on the map, which is just northeast, I should say, of the Australian continent, that is Vanuatu. And Vanuatu is where the next APrIGF is going to be held. So I'm going to talk a bit about Vanuatu. It has a population of about 280,000. So it's an example of a small country with a lot of needs. So the status of, next slide please. The status of ICT in the Pacific. There's obviously growing usage with satellite services and submarine cables bringing faster and more reliable broadband. But it varies widely between different countries. Costs are very high, and there are very expensive costs for computers. Internet usage is mainly through smartphones, and the Vanuatu population, for example, about 75% have mobile phones, but not necessarily smartphones. Vanuatu has a significant subsistence economy. And then you layer on that people with disability who are really doubly disadvantaged through cultural and socio-economic factors. Next slide, please. There's been a pilot project in Vanuatu on the ICT usage level by people with disability. This was an ITU pilot project with the Pacific Disability Forum and the government of Vanuatu. It provides the first time baseline data of ICT usage by people with disability. It builds an evidence base for improving ICT accessibility, And it's based on interviews with over 200 people with disability in both towns and villages. It wasn't possible to send out a survey monkey or do phone interviews because a lot of people may not have a phone. The preliminary findings are that actually quite a lot of people haven't even heard of the internet. Many do not have a mobile phone, and if they do, it's not a smartphone. And the importance of mobiles with long battery life because of limited access to electricity. Next slide, please. Now, this survey has been extended in other Pacific Island countries. And the usage of ICT survey has been done in Papua New Guinea, Fiji, Cook Islands, and Marshall Islands by the Pacific Disability Forum. Could you change slides, please? And change slides again, please. I'm going to be moving on fairly quickly here and talk about the web accessibility audit in Vanuatu. Vanuatu has a strong e-government focus, and the web accessibility audit covered 28 sites. They were not able to meet WCAG 2 for accessibility. Next slide, please. And this is important because Vanuatu has policies like the right to information, which is actually freedom of information to government documents and information about yourself. And I will finish very shortly to say that there have been developments like web accessibility guidelines, putting this into local context. And that was launched at the National Library last year. The next slide, please. And the ways forward, which is relevant in many parts of the Asia-Pacific region. We need a multifaceted approach. We need support for gradual cultural change. We need disability awareness. For government and developers, we need disability inclusive development. We need implementation of policy, legislative and regulatory mechanisms and practical measures, accessible websites, facilities, products and services, subsidized costs, training in ICT usage for people with disability, and finally, inclusion of people with disability in planning. And the motto is nothing about us without us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Cornelia. Stay online. We hope there'll be lots of questions for you later. Now, the third speaker is Kamalrat.
Yes.
And the clicker. We need the clicker. Yeah. Okay. I think you can start.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon. It's very good afternoon. It's very honor for CCDKM. Okay. Good afternoon. It's very honor for CCDKM to share with you what we have used ICT to empowering the marginalized people in Thailand and also in ASEAN for a decade. So we have worked by using ICT to empowering the marginalized for a decade, and then many people ask us, what make it success, kind of. So we would like to share the lesson learned with you that the success of how we use ICT to empowering the marginalized is we have to get along with the policy of the country. So the country of Thailand policy is now like the smart Thailand, the digital economy. So we have to get along with that, and then we go along with them. And then the key part that makes success among our ICT for marginalized empowerment is we use the partnership model. So whatever kind of training or activity design, we use partnership model. or the sector have to work together. So we are the research center that link all the resource together and work together to feed the real demand of the marginalized people. So this is a story that we have worked since be a decade of working among the marginalized. So the first stage that we work is, so we literate them. So the ICT, before we empowering them by using the ICT, we have to literate them. So this is the literacy program that we work with the marginalized along with many agencies all over the country. And then the strategy that we use is, we use what the existing resources that have. So meaning that we have a lot of local wisdom. We have a lot of home-based workers. We have a lot of telecenter all over the country. So in Thailand now we have about 3,000 telecenter all over the country. So meaning that we have the existing infrastructure for people, for the marginalized people to access the ICT. And then they have the local wisdom. So this one link together and then make the meaningful for that. So meaning that after a decade of working together, we use ICT with the simplified ICT to make the startup or make the entrepreneur for about 400 people all over the country. So this is how we use technology among the people. What you have, just use it. So this is the key tool that we use to empowering themselves. So this is some of the example of the marginalized people that they use ICT, and then they can share what they have learned and what they have earned from the ICT. So, and then this is also one among the ladies from the remote rural that can change their life, change their quality of life, and start up her own business. So we have a lot of case study that have been a success by using the ICT, kind of. And then since ICT is one among the daily life of the people now, even they are the urban poor or the remote people. So ICT is their daily life, daily behavior. So they get used to their mobile devices. So this is our current project that we use education, we design education and put it into the mobile devices. We call MOOC, the Massive Open Course Online, for free. So by this year, we have the 6 pilot MOOC for them. The first one that is got the popular one is the communicative English, because the people in the remote community, they want to do the smart tourism, kind of that. And many of them want to learn more about the ASEAN, kind of that. And then one among the popular one is the entrepreneur or the startup. So this one, we get the support from the Ministry of DE and many agencies to do this kind of MOOC. And then the current one that is very high demand among the small farmer all over the country is the smart farm model. So when people ask about the smart farm model, so sometimes it's difficult. So I got consult with the FAO, the Food Agriculture Organization. And then they say that why don't we use SDG farm model? So in this SDG farm model, we design the holistic of the ICT for empowering people. They can do the e-marketing, they can do the e-sensor, they can do the e-self-study, they can do the tele-consulting, kind of that. So this one is undergoing, and we have about 10 pilot SDG farm model all over the country, kind of. And then another innovation that we use among them is kind of the e-business model about the social enterprise. So the community has their own asset of tourism. So meaning that they can use ICT. So we partner with the other entrepreneur that expert in the smart tourism, and then start up the kind of the very local trip. So right now, about the 20 community over Thailand can offer the smart tourism by themselves with the fair trade, kind of. So in conclusion, I would like to say that the ICT for empowerment, even though they are marginalized or non-marginalized, the duty is how can we use ICT to fit well with their lifestyle. So this is the how we use ICT to achieve the people happiness. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Kamalrat. And now we will move to presentation about the UNESCO project by Piawan Suwatanatum. Coming in a moment.
This is not first
That's
slide.
the end.
That's the end slide. Okay, sorry. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Piawan. I'm from UNESCO Bangkok. Today, I would like to introduce you the project of UNESCO, which is called Mobile Literacy for Our Off-School Children project in Thailand. And this project was started in 2015 until now and funded by Microsoft. The objective of the project is to improve literacy and numeracy skills for 4,000 disadvantaged children in school and learning centers, regardless of nationality and legal status. And also 100 teachers must be trained in this project to integrate ICT devices in classroom and create network among teachers to share good practice in teaching and learning with ICT. But now 120 teachers has been trained in our project and they are very active to use ICT in the classroom. Here is our project site. There is 60 school and learning centers join in our project, and the biggest size of the project, which is in Masot district, Tak province, is along the border of Thailand. Here is the project concept. The 4 students will use a tablet in the classroom, but some of school or learning centers has flexibility to use to minimize the number of children per tablet. This is because they want to all the children had opportunity to use this tablet. And we supported by True Corporation, which is a telecommunication network service provider in Thailand. They are our official partner in this project, and they contribute the TV satellite with more than 50 educational channels, digital learning channels TV, and also useful contents to improve literacy and numeracy skill, and also unlimited data 4G internet connection, but these internet connections available only school time, 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the evening. Here is the UNESCO Bangkok developed. We developed the offline application, which is called Learn Big. And these Learn Big applications contain over 700 educational resources, ebook, and multimedia in Thai, Burmese, and Korean languages. And also this application preloaded in every tablet before we launched the tablet to the students and teachers. And we also developed the website in this content as well, but it will be launched soon. Here is more contents from Microsoft. Microsoft provided game application in Windows Store. If you can see in my presentation, the Panda one, it's one of the game application is the most popular among students. And also they provide the Microsoft Office to improve capacity building of teachers. One of my experience in the field, I saw one of the teachers who opened the Microsoft Word, and they projected the tablet screen to the TV, and they typed the words and sentence, and then asked the student to speak along it. Here is the picture from the field. Some of the school or learning center, they set up for the ICT classroom, or and some teachers integrate ICT in their subject, Thai, Burmese, and Korean as well. Here is the another successful project. They are very active to use ICT in this area, and I would like to thank you all of you for your attention and this opportunity. So this project will not be happen without the partnership collaboration like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Piawan. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have a surprise for you. We have a speaker who is not on the program because I failed to announce her name soon enough to the Secretariat, I'm sorry. But we have with us Jean Hong Hu from UNESCO Paris, who is going to talk just for a couple of minutes about some reflections on the community ideas that she's seen here, and then she'll tell you about the UNESCO consultation on Saturday.
Thank you so much, Winston and Ifla, and thank you for lifting this important subject in the Asian Pacific IGF. And as you know, UNESCO, both in headquarters and in Bangkok office, we have been supporting libraries and librarians for years and decades. And we truly believe that library is playing and will continue to play a crucial role to promoting universal access to information knowledge, which is so important as a driving force for everyone, for every state to achieve the sustainable development societies, and also to build the inclusive knowledge societies as we have envisioned for the future. And I've heard so many very encouraging stories, good practices in Indonesia, in Thailand, and also the great work our colleagues have done in empowering the disabilities, which leads me to reflect that we do need a very holistic and comprehensive understanding of access and accessibility and how crucial it's to the whole internet governance, since now is a forum talk about the governance. And as also Winston just mentioned, the UNESCO is developing a wide array of indicators to measure the development of the internet. We call it Internet Universality Rome Principles. Accessibility is one of the four-pillar principles we have been advocating. We believe that there are at least 4 layers of meanings we can attach to the access and accessibility. First of all, as basic question of the digital divide is the infrastructure. Internet has been in place for 50 years, but still now we see such a gap of access, both here in Asian Pacific and the rest part of the world. That's the first thing to challenge, to tackle. Library is crucial, to provide both cities and also rural communities to access the ICT. Second layer is about the content, which is more and more discussed, because once you access the internet, you need the quality, diverse content, and particularly the local content, which are more pertinent to the communities. And third layer is about the social inclusion. We have been discussing the people with disabilities. Now they are able to access internet and to access knowledge more than ever. That's great. And also we should also look at those inequality based on the social economic status and the gender equality, for example. So that's all important aspect to look at. And lastly, as Ifla has set out very perfect, that the literacy and the knowledge, skills, ethics, that became the new set of the literacy in the internet society, in the internet era. So I believe this comprehensive understanding to access and accessibility would help us to think more about the library's role, and also think about even wider internet at all. It is a large library in a new form. We really need to think how we harness that as a way to empower people access knowledge rather than become a tool just for entertainment, for example. So lastly, I just want to save more time for discussion and invite all of you to take forward discussion also with UNESCO session we are organizing during lunchtime on Saturday. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Shan Hong. And I would encourage you to go to the UNESCO session on Saturday. They'll be talking about the development of indicators to help us track progress in all these social and cultural trends and the use of the internet. Developing indicators sounds a very abstract academic subject, but believe me, it's not. It's real. It's real life. Okay, now the session is open to you, the audience, to ask questions about all those things that you would have liked to know more about, but which we only had time just to mention in passing. Now you have a few minutes to delve down deeper into those questions. Ask one of our speakers to explain further something they may have said. Who would like? The gentleman first. Sorry, I think you raised your hand first. Could you say your name, please, where you come from, and say who you want to address the question to?
Nuwan Vaidanatha from Learn Asia, Sri Lanka, living in China. Okay, so I hear the word access, but then I heard the word usability, which I think is a key important thing, and we're talking about deaf, disabled people, functionally illiterate people. So functionally illiterate means you're not, that you cannot read or write, like me being in China cannot read or write Chinese, but I have education. So then when you talk about access, you're talking about like, okay, so we bring the network, but people have nothing to use it for. So once again, is that a usability issue? Because that drives the demand, right? And I have another question maybe for UNESCO, especially with the WIPO and all these other initiatives, whether you're using pictographs as means for communicating both ways with illiterate people, because I'd be interested to get to know more about those initiatives, because that's part of my research.
Okay, thank you. That's a lot of questions in one.
We're mainly asking, like, why not put usability in front first, you know?
Yes, all right. Who would like to answer that question? Shan Hong?
Briefly, thank you for this important question. I should have mentioned more evident on the language. UNESCO has been supporting the language diversity in cyberspace in 2005. Our member states, including every country in Asia Pacific, endorsed a convention, a declaration about promoting universal access and linguistic diversity in cyberspace. We well recognize that the gap of the language presence in the cyberspace. Imagine there are 6,000 languages in the world, but only a couple hundred available in the cyberspace. That showed a huge barrier for many indigenous community to access the content. It's both about the challenge for access, and also it's also a double as an implication for the user's capacity, because the user capacity is, for us, it's an integral part of the access and accessibility. Without the necessary skills, including language skills, you cannot imagine any quality access and also production of online content by the users who are also creating the cyberspace. I think my colleagues also want to comment.
To answer that questions, I will answer from my experience, because I'm doing the project for UNESCO Bangkok. Once I collected all the e-books in the many languages, because we had like challenges to find the books in Burmese or the book in Karen, because it's not available much.
I could also answer for my own country, New Zealand. We have a good public library system, but we also struggle sometimes to provide enough books in the languages of the immigrant communities we have. We need to provide more books in languages like Samoan and also Myanmar language, because we have refugees from Myanmar. We need to provide books in Spanish because we have people from Colombia, South America. So this is a question which is easy to resolve in a developed country with good public library budgets, but even so, we are suffering from cost pressures, budget pressures from our local authorities. It's a political question, as all budget questions are. Okay, another question from the floor. Yes, young lady.
So there are some comments and questions from the remote participant. The first one is from Fiji, Pacifica Nexus. Her name is Salaneta Tamanikaiwaimaro. The comment is, how are the out-of-school children identified and gathered in Thailand? As they go through the initiative, does this mean that they have become part of the school system? And could they clarify whether this is for students after school or children who are not in school and would not necessarily access the education? And can I go with the second person? Okay, the second person is Gunela APrIGF from GAS Infocom, Australia. Have the projects in Indonesia and Thailand on digital literacy included people with disability?
Okay, Piawan first.
Okay, the out-of-school children in context of the in Masot border of Thailand, the reason why they are out-of-school children because some of them need to follow their parents, and their parents move around to seek for the job opportunity, and that's why they move to another school and move to the migrant learning center, and we also hard to tracking them to in the system as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kamarat. Sorry, there was another question. One to Gunela. Is she still on the line? Gunela, did you hear the question? Or do you want the remote moderator to repeat it for you? Is Gunela still, are we still receiving her? Is she still connected?
Yes. Okay, I go ahead. The question about the very interesting projects in Indonesia and Thailand about digital literacy and the effects that has on unemployment and integration into the community. And I'm wondering, have there been any people with disability involved in the programs? Have there been any outreach to disability organizations for people with disability to participate in these digital literacy programs? Thank you.
Okay. The question is the handicapped youth or handicapped people included in the marginalized in Thailand or not, right? So actually the marginalized in Thailand is exactly include the handicap, and also you might not imagine that it also include the small farmer also. The small farmer in Thailand also is under the category of the marginalized. So this is the reason why we have to educate them. And then for the first question about the out-school children or out-school youth, actually I cannot remember, it's a huge number of the out-school youth that drop out from the school system. So right now what we are trying to do for them is, you cannot, you might not imagine that the out-school youth, they all have the mobile devices. So they don't know how to make use from that. So this is the reason why we try to start up with kind of the simplified academy to let them learn from their daily life. So we train them how to do the small startup, small tourism kind of that. And then that can be counted to be into the formal education system. So this is under the process of planning. Because I'm from the People University, so we are taking this one as one of the consideration.
Thank you. Can I have the next question, please? Yes, sir. You. Would you like to go to the microphone, please, and say your name and one brief question, and tell us who you would like to address it to?
Visharat from Fiji, and this goes to Gonela if she's here, still in touch with us.
I think she's still online, yes.
I mean, in terms of looking disability and access to the accessibility to persons with disability to the internet, I mean, would you say the model would be that the internet is being adapted to people with disability as opposed to, let's say, in the real world where the world wants people of disability to adapt to their world? Just your thought, and anyone else?
Cornelia, are you online? Did you hear the question? Yeah.
Yes, thank you, and it's a very good question.
Keep talking.
5-10 minutes on this question, but I know we have limited time. Really, if we're looking at the social model of disability, we're talking about how the community will reduce the barriers for people with disability to be able to participate. And that can be, for example, when you are walking into a building such as this particular building, it would have a flat entrance for a person in a wheelchair. It's also good for someone delivering goods, for someone with a trolley or a pram for children. So it's called universal design. And that is the point when it comes to online accessibility as well. That's why there is the W3C Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, there's authoring guidelines, there's a number of other guidelines as well. And the point of this is that the governments across the world have implemented these. So a lot of governments actually do have reasonably accessible websites. So it means that based on the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, people with disability have a right to information. They have a right to participate. It's not that they should spend a lot of money to find some way of getting the tool, or having someone, if you think of it, carrying them into a building. It's the same online. It's a matter of the community working to ensure that facilities are accessible. And there are a number of policies and tools and programs to make that happen. Thanks.
Thank you, Gunilla. Are there any more questions from remote participants or the room? I see a gentleman with his hand up. Okay, you, sir. You next.
He's blind, so.
It's the gentleman from Bangladesh, is that correct? Who spoke in the opening session this morning. And he's got his...
Thank you very much. My name is Bhaskar. I am just from Bangladesh. Only I have just would like to comment only one small point, that is the SDG. You know, there is SDG goal 4 and SDG 8. So digital literacy is very much important to achieve the SDG by 2030. So by ignoring people with disabilities, it is nearly impossible to reach the SDG goals. So we are seeing that in the different country, normally people with disabilities is completely completely missing from the digital literacy, even though in our region we are seeing they are potentially missing, and they just consider as a they are maybe like a charity type thing. So for achieving SDG, we must consider the people with disabilities in digital literacy. If we could get any model or example from in our region, that would be great. Thank you.
Yes, I think I was just about to say that the gentleman is blind, yes, for Gunilla, who can't obviously see him. The time is up. I've been told the time is up. So before we close, I just want to say one thing, and that also relates to marginalisation. We haven't actually mentioned the case of indigenous populations who may suffer from a different sort of marginalised condition. And this is something we know about in my country, New Zealand, because we have quite a large indigenous Maori population. At least we have their language as one of our official languages, which is progress. But I'm afraid there's no time to go into the questions of indigenous culture at this time. So I think, no, I'm sorry, time is up. We really are going to run over into the next session. So apologies to those of you who may still have questions. You can still email them to the speakers. You can look at the transcripts online of this conference, and you can email questions, I'm sure, to the speakers. I'm sure they will be happy to answer them. But in the meantime, many thanks for coming to the session, and we all hope that you've got something from the presentations, and thank you for your support. There are so many things we could have said. It will be before too long. Getting the books which are